Nebraska is coming off one of the biggest recruiting weekends ever. And today I'm joined with a special guest. You know who it is, four-star edge rusher Dawson Merritt. Dawson, thanks for joining the program today. How are you doing?
Yeah, no problem, man. I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk.
Absolutely. Let's just jump into it, talking about the reasoning behind visiting Nebraska again. Of course, you committed to Alabama in late June. What really went into that thought process when you decided to visit Lincoln versus Colorado?
I mean, I would say ever since I've been committed, everybody at Nebraska respected my decision, but at the same time, they made it clear that they weren't going to stop recruiting me because, I mean, obviously, like you saw with Dylan, nothing is locked in until you sign your name on that paper. So, I mean, I've always had that close relationship. That's why I'm a big relational guy. So, they were in my top two because of how close I was to that whole entire staff. So I mean, I was always talking to a lot of guys from there, and they asked me to come up. And I mean, obviously, I saw all the guys that were gonna be there, and some of those guys I went on my official visit with, so I was already tight with, like Dayton Raiola, Mike Terry. And I mean, it was obviously playing against Colorado, a great game, and Nebraska's close to my house, so I was like, I'm gonna get me and some of my friends, and why not? Let's go do it.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it was a huge game. Of course, Nebraska got done 28-10. I was there. A bunch of recruits were there. So, what was your big takeaway from another visit to Lincoln? I mean, first time with that atmosphere, with that crowd. I mean, I've never seen anything like it, and I go to almost every single game, so it must have been crazy.
Yeah, I mean, something that I would say is the fans are always exceeding my expectations every time I go. Like they always take it to the next level every time I've been there. I mean, in most games, you see when your team's blowing someone out, people start to get quieter because it doesn't matter as much. I would say. I'm telling you, third, fourth quarter, Nebraska fans are getting louder. Like it was truly ridiculous. And then I mean, I knew Dylan was going to do his thing, but I was super impressed with how the defense played, man. I mean, Shadur looked miserable, and obviously he ended up straight up quitting at the end of the game, pretty much. So I mean, the defense was insane.
Yeah, no, the defense. I mean, it's from where it was a couple years ago to where it is now. Like you can see what Matt Rule's doing. It was crazy, man. I mean,
Yeah.
domination for like Travis did his thing, but Travis is special. But Nebraska, really, really good defense, and of course, I know they're hoping to add you because you would be a difference maker. But I want to ask you, a couple of recruits got in the locker room after the game. Were you in the locker room hanging with the players? Tell me
Yeah,
about
I
that.
was in the locker room after the
Yeah,
game. I was.
yeah. What was that like?
It was crazy. I mean, Coach Rhule gave a super cool speech at the end. I mean, they all expected to win the game. They knew how it was going to pan out. But I would say the best part of being in the locker room after is they started playing Perfect Timing and everyone was
Yeah, oh
singing
yeah.
to it. I thought that was super funny. Dylan came up and started shoving me and all this stuff, talking trash. But I mean, I love all those guys, man. Like those are my guys for sure.
Now the culture in Nebraska, I mean, you saw it firsthand. I mean, it's different right now. But going back to this defense again, doing that against Colorado, against a team that everybody knows very well. Coach White, one of the best developers in the country. What has he told you about basically how they're going to use you? And honestly, you could get on the field right away. So just talk about that a little bit. And honestly, if that's really swinging you to Nebraska, just the fact that you could probably play as a true freshman.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge point right there. That's something that they do speak to me off. In that, I mean, obviously they're not going to guarantee any positions to me, but the spots are open next year. Like I could definitely and would be expecting to seeing playing time as a true freshman, and they see me playing wherever I develop into playing. So I mean, and however my body ends up developing, I feel like I play in a decent, in a pretty I'm blessed in the role that I'm in high school because I feel like I get to show a lot on film that I'm a very versatile player that I can do a lot of different things. And Nebraska sees that, so I mean, I feel like I can plug in a lot of different spots and help them out for sure.
Now I got to ask you. You mentioned Michael Terry, a couple other Nebraska commits. Which guys are specifically in your ear about going to Nebraska? Some current players, just name drop a couple.
Definitely, Daniel Raiola is my biggest recruiter right now, talking about how I can end up teaming up with Dylan and blah blah blah. Who else would I say? Bly Hill is another one who texts me a lot about Nebraska. And then Dylan, honestly, me and Dylan talk a lot. We were on the phone today. Just he's definitely a big recruiter trying to get me there. So I'd say the Rayola brothers, Bly Hill, And then the linebacker 42, I'm forgetting his first name. I'm tripping right now, but his last name is Gaber, 42.
Makai.
Yeah, Makai Gaber is
Yeah.
another big one. But yeah, I definitely say a couple of guys are definitely still recruiting me.
Now, I know you probably saw Christian Jones committed last night to Nebraska. That's the number one player in the state. So, I mean, you might be able to team up with him. That'd be a lethal duo there in that linebacker core. But I know Nebraska, they're trying to go hard there on that defense.
Yeah, I mean Christian is he's a good player, like you said, number one player in the state. I mean that's big. That's a big get for sure.
So I got to ask you real quick about your high school football team. Start off 1-0. Hey, what's the vibe there? Like trying to make a run at the state title?
Yeah, man. You know we're going for nothing less. We're going for state. I mean, there's definitely I would say a different type of energy that I felt compared to my other seasons there. I mean, we're hungry, man. We're hungry. We're super hungry, and I'm expecting to get the job done for sure.
So I got to ask you about Alabama because you are committed to them. Are you going to take another visit to Tuscaloosa? What's that looking like?
I am. I'm going to the Georgia Alabama game, which should be really fun. I'm excited for that for sure.
Dude, that's going to be a crazy battle.
I know it.
So one last thing I want to ask you, just what's the big selling point for Nebraska in your mind? Like what's the thing that the coaching staff keeps harping on that you're really interested about? Is it the fact that it's closer to home? Is it the fact that you could be different? You know, I know that's one reason Dylan picked Nebraska. So what's the one thing that like really intrigues you about the Huskers and why, you know, they're still in the mix?
Close to home. You said it. I mean, just being able to drive up there very easily like I've done a billion times already. Being close to home, like you said, playing early is another big one. And then my relationships. I mean, I've openly admitted to them that my relationships there with players on the team is nothing like any other school. And then as a coaching staff as a whole, I have great relationships as well. So those are definitely some big recruiting pitches. And another thing that I would personally say is I'm a big Christian. And Coach Brown, he helps out the running backs. Me and him talk a whole bunch, and he's a chaplain there, and we talk on the phone a whole bunch, and that's a big one for sure.
I know Coach Brown's awesome. He's been at Nebraska for a while. I just think, you know, the culture in Nebraska is different. I think you would fit right in. I know I'm not trying to give you a pitch right now on the video,
Yeah,
but
no, I hear you.
you've heard everything, I'm sure, at this point.
Definitely.
But Nebraska's right now. You're seeing we're heating up right now, 2-0. We'll see where the season goes. But you know, glad that we're still in the mix. Glad you had a good time on the visit. And that game was crazy, dude. I mean, again, I go to almost every game. That was nuts. The light show, I'm sure, bro. That was nuts as well. So I'm glad you had a good time. Glad you got down. Again, we'll see what happens with the Alabama commitment. You know, again, two good choices. Not trying to sway you any single way, but I want to thank you for joining the show. We talked about you all summer, man. The Nebraska fan base, you know, it wants you probably as bad as anybody else. So definitely they'll eat this up. So I appreciate you, man. Have a good rest of your high school football season, and we'll see what happens, my man.
Thank you so much, my guy. I do, like you said, really appreciate the love from all you guys. I mean, I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely, bro. All right, guys, let us know down below what's your main takeaway from the Dawson Merritt interview. What are we feeling on his commitment? Make sure to hit that like button as well and subscribe for more interviews just like this. And as always, folks, go Big Red, go Matt Rhule, and see you in the next one.